to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Sunday, April the 20th. I am your host, Mike Oliva, flying solo today. Draft week is finally here, and there's a lot of scuttlebutt out there, rumor, innuendo, reports from reputable people regarding the Miami Dolphins, and we're going to talk about all of it on today's show as we are just a few days away from the 2025 NFL Draft. Before we get to that, let's take care of some housekeeping right off the top. Number one, if you're watching this on YouTube, take a second, do me a favor, smash that like button. Smash it right now. It only takes a second. Let's just all pause, smash that like button. Really helps. Also, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well, because we're going to have shows each and every day of the week, which I'll get to here in a second. Also, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. I want everyone to go to the website, caneswear.com. If you're looking for Miami Dolphins apparel, they have not only the best Miami Dolphins apparel, but the most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet, whether it's hats, t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, swim trunks, shorts, polos, you name it, they got it when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. They also got stuff for the Miami Hurricanes, the Florida Panthers, Miami Heat, Miami Marlins. They got some Florida State, Florida, and all the college teams in the state of Florida. But really, when it comes to the Dolphins, if you're listening to a podcast like this, caneswear.com is the site you need to go to for the best and most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel. Also, Dolphins Talk Extra, patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. $3 a month, bonus podcast, interactive podcast, private message board, contest where we give away hats and we give away other Miami Dolphins apparel, autographs like a Mercury Morris autographed jersey we just gave away not too long ago, and bobblehead dolls, never open, mint in box, stuff like that. We're giving it away. We did an interactive mock draft at Dolphins Talk Extra last Friday night. We released it to everyone, so everyone can see it. So it's on our YouTube channel, it's on our podcast feed, to get a little flavor, a little taste of what's going on over at Dolphins Talk Extra, to hope to, if you've been on the fence about should I sign up, shouldn't I sign up? Again, $3 a month, very affordable. Stuff like this is happening over there. So we put that out there for the world to see, but we have more content like that. But you got to be an extra member. So go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. And before we get to the show, let me just set you up for this week. As it's Sunday, we're going to have shows each and every day this week. So I have this show tonight on Sunday. We're going to have a show Monday night. We're going to have a show Tuesday night. We're going to have a show Wednesday night. Now, the draft starts on Thursday. Here's how this works. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel, we're going to be streaming live. On Thursday, myself, Josh, Aaron, with a few surprises who are going to be joining us. I don't want to spoil the surprises. Trust me, you're going to love it. And we're going to be on through the Miami Dolphins pick, probably a little bit after, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Friday, same thing. Myself, Josh, Aaron, whoever else is going to pop on. We also have Dolph Freaky live in Green Bay. She's going to join us. Boots on the ground in Green Bay. Again, more surprises on Friday as well who are going to pop in and join us. Now, Saturday gets a little iffy because it's a long day. And that'll be just me. And here's what I'm going to do. Saturday, once the draft starts, I'm going to open up the YouTube channel to everybody. That's right. If you're a listener and you want to jump on with me on Saturday, talk Dolphins like a radio call-in show, we're going to do it like that. I'm going to share the link, and anyone can click and come on, and we can chat Dolphins. Am I going to stay on from all around 4, 5, 6, and 7? Can't make that promise, but I'll be on for a couple hours, and you, the listeners, can jump on with me, and you might be on live with me when Miami makes their pick. You can come on with me after they make their pick or anytime on Saturday that I'm live. That's what's going to happen on Saturday. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, we're going to have a special podcast with myself and Tom after each night, recapping what Miami did on that evening. So podcast every day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, live on YouTube during the draft. And Saturday, it's going to be interactive for the world. Anyone can jump on with me. So that's draft week here at DolphinsTalk.com. Let's get to the news. Jonathan Jones of CBS. He's putting in the work. He's got a lot of the scuttlebutt that's out there right now regarding what's going on as we are just a few days away from the draft. And he had some Miami Dolphins tidbits. 3, as a matter of fact. And Jonathan Jones is as reputable as they come. CBS, he's on the NFL Today pregame show on CBS. He does outstanding work. His reporting is usually kind of spot on. He's not one of those guys who just floats out nonsense. When he reports something, you sort of sit up straight and listen because it's probably very close to accurate. First, he has a report on Ramsey and that whole story that broke last week. He is reporting that the Miami Dolphins have been trying to trade Ramsey since as far back as the NFL Combine. That's that last week of February, first week of March. When they were shopping him there on the down low, they got very little interest. Not many teams, or really not any teams, were interested in trading for Ramsey. That's why the Miami Dolphins last Tuesday strategically leaked the news that they're trying to trade Ramsey. They were hoping to drum up some interest in the week prior to the draft to let the world know that Ramsey's available via trade, because as of right now, the time he put out this report, which was about 24 to 48 hours ago or so, there is a zero market for Jalen Ramsey. Per his sources, not one team is interested in trading for Jalen Ramsey. And if you're asking why, it's because every team does not want to pay Jalen Ramsey's hefty 2025 contract. It's too much. They do not want to take that on and add that to their salary cap. So that's the reason there's really no interest right now around the league for Ramsey, and why Miami sort of leaked that story last week and made it public that they're trying to trade him, because they have no takers. Per his sources, he says that the Falcons and Raiders, the Atlanta Falcons and Las Vegas Raiders, do have some interest if the price is right. So if Ramsey is going to get moved here in the next week or so, keep an eye on the Falcons and the Raiders. They're the two teams who showed slight interest, but even their interest is kind of muted just because of the contract. Jonathan Jones went on to say that Miami is prepared to take the $29.2 million cap hit right now to move on from Ramsey. So it's not about Miami per se. They've made their peace that we're going to eat like close to $30 million trading him because they just want him gone. So the problem is, what team wants to pay Ramsey's 2025 contract? Right now, there's none. Jonathan Jones went on to say, if Miami if Miami cannot trade Ramsey by the end of the draft, so this is going to go all this week. If a draft happens, it'll probably happen Friday night, I have a feeling. I doubt it'll happen prior to Friday. I mean, it could. It's not going to happen on Thursday because no one's going to part with a round 1 pick, and everyone's going to be occupied with round 1. Friday, you get into the picks in rounds 2 and 3. Could see it there. Saturday, getting the picks in round 4. Could happen there. But after Saturday, once we're past round 7, if Miami is unable to trade Ramsey by the end of Saturday, they could still move him after June 1st, because that actually helps Miami split the cap hit up over 2 seasons. But again, the problem Miami has, it's not about the cap hit for Miami, because Miami, per Jonathan Jones and his sources, they'll pay $29.2 million in dead money or whatever right now. They don't care about their cap. The other teams are worried about their caps. And per Jonathan Jones and his sources saying, if Miami wants to trade Ramsey this week or this weekend, this upcoming weekend, they're going to have to pay some of Ramsey's contract this year to facilitate a trade, because they know this is a cluster that Chris Greer created, and why Chris Greer is so bad at his job. When you give a guy less than a year ago, last August, all this money, and then you turn around and want to trade him, 7-8 months later, it's almost impossible. And that's why they're going to have a lot of trouble trying to trade Ramsey. not only are they going to have to eat a ton of dead cap, they're also going to have to pay part of it. It's just a cluster. But that's the latest on Ramsey. They've been trying to trade him since late February, early March. No teams have shown really any true interest because they don't want to pay his contract. And especially right now with the draft, it's like I can just draft a guy. I have him for 4 or 5 years, relatively cheap. Why am I going to trade for a guy who's on the wrong side of 30 and have to pay him all this money? Like, no one's going to do that. So that's the tricky spot Chris Grier has put the Dolphins in. And we'll see if there's a maybe the Falcons or Raiders will say, look, we'll pay half of his contract, you pay the other, and we'll give you a 4th-round pick. I mean, I think that's kind of what the Dolphins are looking at. If they can get a 3rd, I jump at it. Most likely, I think they're probably going to get a 4th. And I know, that this guy is a future Hall of Famer, this, that, and the other. But let's be honest, he's also a pain in the ass. He was a pain in the ass with Jacksonville. He was a pain in the ass with the Rams. And he's clearly been a pain in the ass with Miami. He is the Kevin Durant of the NFL. Like, he's just never happy, and he just goes from new team to new team to new team every few years. He's great on the field, no doubt about that. But, never seems to be happy, always wants out, and is always forcing his way out of the current team he's on. But I think trading him is going to be more of a challenge than some fans think. We'll see what happens this next week. I have a feeling Chris Grier is going to try and move heaven and earth, and if that means putting Miami not in salary cap hell, but just taking the big hit now and having to pay half the salary and all that stuff, I could see it happen. Okay, let's talk about Tyreek Hill, this gem. Jonathan Jones said per his sources, he finds it very hard to believe any team will give Miami a reasonable offer for Tyreek Hill. He said Hill is 31 years old. He's coming off his worst season ever, and he just had a domestic situation in his home a couple weeks back. So it's unlikely any team even wants Tyreek Hill right now, as he is toxic. Like level 4, molten hot lava toxic. Why would any team part with anything reasonable, put that in quotes, reasonable, for Tyreek Hill? And I mean, makes sense. Again, coming off a horrible year, just had wrist surgery, can't participate in any drills until late July, first part of August. It makes sense. So any hope or thought that Miami's going to move on from Tyreek, it ain't happening. As I said on the show I did late last week, if the Dolphins are going to move on from Hill, it's going to be in October. If they start off slow, 2-5, and the season's going down the toilet relatively quickly, and they're out of it. Come October, if there's a team that needs wide receiver help or thinks Hill can be the missing piece at the trade deadline, that's probably when they'll be able to move him. Are they going to get anything great for him in return? Probably not, because, again, old, starting to slow down, and they've got a ton of off-the-field issues. But I think if Miami's going to trade him, it ain't going to be now. They're going to start the season with him. He's probably going to throw a tantrum at some point, especially if they start off the year relatively slow. I think the best bet for Hill to be moved is in October at the trade deadline, and then the Miami Dolphins organization can rid themselves of this nightmare that is Tyreek Hill right now. All right, before I get to the last topic of today's show, big shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, YouTube, subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode of the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. Like I said, we have shows each and every day this week. After each round, we're going to have shows. We've been nominated for not one, but 2 sports podcast awards this past year. We cover the Dolphins better than anyone else. There's a lot of haters out there, but we cover them better than anyone else. A lot of imitators, but we're the originators. And you want to make sure you are subscribed to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. All right, last report, which I find fascinating. And this is also coming from once again, Jonathan Jones at CBS, who's got a ton of tidbits right now in the draft. I'm just pulling out the ones about the Dolphins. He's got some about the Browns and the Giants and all these other teams that really hasn't been widely reported, but is again the scuttlebutt and what's really happening, boots on the ground this week. Now, just a few days out from the draft, and this one, I know it's going to cause some fans of the Dolphins to get into their feelings. And again, I'm just reporting. I'm just sharing what Jonathan Jones is reporting. So, Jonathan Jones, we know the teams who need quarterbacks in this draft. And we know that Ward is going 1 overall. And he goes, we obviously know the quarterback hungry teams like the Titans, the Saints, the Browns, and the Giants. Like those guys are all probably going to try and get quarterbacks in round 1, and all of them have picks at the top of round 2. So when they like loop back around pick 33, 34, 35, 36, when they come up again, they're looking to possibly get their quarterback there. Ward obviously won. Tennessee, it sounds like number 2 Browns and 3 Giants are not taking quarterbacks there, but they lead off like round 2 with very high picks. They're either going to take them there or try to trade back into round 1. And we know the Saints, same thing. They're at 9. They pick again. So they're going to, all these teams are looking to get their quarterback here. 1 top out of round 2. What Jones is reporting and what sources are telling him is that there are 4 teams, 4, that want to take a quarterback in rounds 2, 3, or 4. Now, you're probably asking, who are those 4 teams? The Seattle, in no special order, the Seattle Seahawks, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, and your Miami Dolphins. Now, let's break them down. Seattle kind of makes sense. They just got a new quarterback out there, but again, they didn't pay him as in Sam Darnold. They paid him a lot, but they didn't like break the bank for him, and they're kind of hedging their bet. And how they structured that deal, there's out relatively quick. And we know Sam Darnold was great last year, but the final 2 games he played last year really were kind of bad. And we know what Sam Darnold was with the Jets and all this stuff. So they're hedging their bet, and I could see them looking for a young quarterback again in rounds 2, 3, and 4. They have a second-year head coach, so sort of let's take someone, let's have someone in the pipeline. Makes a lot of sense. Las Vegas, again, Geno Smith is Geno Smith. I know they traded for him. I know they just gave him an extension. Again, they didn't really break the bank for him. But Geno, he's not a spring chicken. He's a little bit up there. And to have someone, again, they don't have to use a pick in round 1 per se, but in rounds 2, 3, or 4, let's get someone, get them behind Geno, start getting them ready, groom them to eventually, hopefully someday take over from Geno. The Jets, we know what's going on with the Jets. They told Aaron Rodgers, hey, Funab, get out of town. They get Justin Fields. Again, Justin Fields was nothing great with the Bears, was nothing great with Pittsburgh when he played, and they're rolling the dice on him. And again, let's get someone behind Justin Fields because, again, we don't know what Justin Fields truly is. Maybe he'll be fine as a number 1 quarterback now for the Jets, that he's got the job, or maybe he just isn't it. So rounds 2, 3, and 4, let's invest in a young quarterback. Miami's the interesting one, as Jones points out here in his report. He says they have 10 picks total, Miami, including 4 picks in these specific rounds. They have pick 48, round 2, pick 98, round 3, pick 116, and 135 in round 4. So they have the ammunition here to burn one of those 4 picks on a quarterback. And he points out the reason, again, I know some fans are going to, it will make them mad, but the reason is obvious. The Miami Dolphins missed the playoffs last year because they didn't have a plan when Tua went down and got hurt. Yes, they signed Zach Wilson, but he's the only other quarterback on the roster. They only have 2 quarterbacks, in Tua and Wilson. Tua always hurt. Zach Wilson, up until now, been a bust. So they need to invest in another quarterback. And if you're the Dolphins in rounds 2, 3, and 4, a little sweet spot here where you're not going to burn, your first-round pick on one, but you got 4 picks in that little window in rounds 2, 3, and 4. You can still fill your needs on offensive line or maybe corner or safety or nose tackle and stuff like that. But we're going to use one of those picks and invest in a quarterback because we don't trust the starter because he's never healthy. And Zach Wilson still might suck in Miami. We hope he don't suck. We don't think he sucked. That's why we signed him. But there's a chance he still might suck. So I get it. And that's the 4th team here. Again, who from his sources, And Jonathan Jones has a lot of sources. He's on the NFL Today on CBS. You don't just get those jobs by making stuff up out of thin air. I know some fans think that's all they do. They don't. They don't. You have to prove that you report stuff accurately, and Jonathan Jones reports stuff very accurately, saying Miami's one of those teams that might use one of those picks in rounds 2, 3, and 4. So let's talk about the quarterbacks who would be in play. Well, I think round 1, obviously Ward. I think should or Sanders going to go somewhere. Does he go 9 to the Saints? Do the Giants take him to 3 and surprise everyone? He's going to go somewhere. There's been talk maybe the Rams at 26 if he falls, or if he falls, Pittsburgh at 21. I mean, he's going in round 1. So let's take Ward and Sanders, put them to the side. Now, like I said, if the Browns and the Giants and the Saints don't take one in round 1, well, they all got picks, round 2, pretty high. They could just sit there and take like the next guys, like a Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe, or they might trade up to the back end of round 1, which is only a few spots, and to ensure they get the one they want. So I'm not going to count Ward, not going to count Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Milroe. They're not going to be there. Even when Miami gets on the clock at pick 48, those 4, 99.9% chance they're all gone. Let's kick them to the side. Here's where it gets interesting. Tyler Shuck, or Schuff, however you pronounce it, from Louisville. He could be there at 48. Now, there's been rumblings that he might go late round 1. Some people like him more than Milroe. Some people like him even a little bit more than Jackson Dart. There's a chance he could go late round 1 or in that top part of round 2. If I had to bet a buck today, I think Shuck is not going to go late round 1, top of round 2. I think those 4 are going to go before him. And I think Shuck is going to stay in that like middle round 2, late round 2 range. So pick 48, would Chris Grier pull the trigger on a quarterback? And if they do, he'll be probably the guy that they would, because I think some of the other names I'm about to say are not round 2 guys. Now, here's the thing. At pick 48, Miami has a ton of needs, we know. You can probably get a plug-and-play player who's going to come in and start, whether it's an offensive lineman, someone who can come in and hopefully beat out Liam Eichenberg, someone who can come out and you can put next to Zach Sealer and Benito Jones on the line on defense. You can probably get a safety. You can come in and start. All depending on what you do in round 1, you might be able to come in and get a corner who can start year 1, because Lord knows we don't have any corners now. So would Chris Grier pass on one of those spots to take a quarterback? I don't think he would. Would Chris Grier trade down from pick 48, go from pick 48, just making up a number, pick 57, pick up an extra third, take a quarterback at 57, knowing now I got 2 picks in round 3, 2 picks in round 4, 2 picks in round 5. That's when I'm going to fill all these needs. I could see that. But at pick 48, I don't think he would take the kid from Louisville here, Tyler Shuck. And if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize, because it's spelled one way, but I know it's said another. And I'll learn it if he's on the Dolphins. If not, I don't need to know the name after next week. And what makes him interesting, there's 2 things. One, he's 25. So I know the age kind of scares some teams. To me, it doesn't. It shows a level of maturity. And we know in South Florida, that South Florida lifestyle can get young players in trouble. It's someone at 25. You would hope he has enough maturity to maybe that might actually be a positive. The other thing is, this one big bitch. This ain't little Tua Tagovailoa, and it's not a knock. I'm just stating the obvious. Who's like a little bit undersized. He gets a big hit. This kid's a big bitch. 6'5", 219, a big tall quarterback, and he's got a big arm who can throw it. Really durable, big quarterback. He built for like a team like Pittsburgh to play in the cold. Built like a team like the Bills. He's one of those types of quarterbacks who you would see in those like Northeast teams, cold, wintry game, mid-December while the snow's coming down, ain't going to affect this kid. So if the Dolphins were to pivot and say, you know what, we have Tua, and we're hoping he pans out here because we gave him all this money. We're hoping he sort of turns thing around. But if not, let's have this kid behind him, and it's a totally different player. It's like night and day, totally different. And I think that would be the intriguing thing. So if Miami were to take one around 2, I don't think it'd be a pick 48. I think they would look to try and trade down, get an extra pick, and try to take someone like Shuck a little bit later. Now, when it gets to rounds 3 and 4, this is where it gets wild, because there's 4 guys who could be there at pick 98 and on. So Miami could sit at 13, take a guy, hopefully a starter. Sit at pick 48, take a guy, hopefully a starter. Wait till the end of round 3, 98. And you know what? Now is when we're going to burn a pick on a quarterback. Or I'll wait till round 4 where I got pick 116, 135, and I'll take a quarterback there. And here are the 4 names. Again, no special order. I know everyone's got their personal favorites. This is no special order. Number 1, Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. This kid's just a winner. He only lost 1 game at Ohio State as a starter. Then he transferred to a dead, and I mean a dead, Syracuse football program, and he led them to 10 wins this past season, and he turned them around overnight. And yes, he turned them around overnight. He's got a lot of moxie. He's a great anticipatory thrower of the football. I think he is the perfect fit for what Mike McDaniel wants in a quarterback. He's just got moxie, not arrogant, just a little bit of that, just enough confidence you want in your quarterback, where he's not going to be, like I said, arrogant per se, but he's got a level of confidence like, hey, guys, I got this. Don't worry. So Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, if, 98, 116, 135, they pulled the plug, or if they pulled it there, let's, put a name down the card, hand it in, no problem. Next name, Dylan Gabriel, Oregon. Not my cup of tea. Came from Oklahoma prior to Oregon. He's essentially Tua light. And I'm not just saying that because he's a lefty. I'm saying it because he's a lefty who's undersized. He's like a poor man's Tua. We got the real thing in Tua. I don't need his possible long-term number 2 quarterback to be a lesser version of him. So Gabriel, I've seen him mocked to Miami a million times in various mock drafts. Again, they're mock drafts. I don't think it's if I'm Chris Greer, which thank God I'm not, and after he took Tua and we've seen all the injuries and he's not, not able to sort of hold up through, in a 17 game season outside of 1 year, which he did it. I'm not drafting a guy who's cut from the same cloth, who's probably going to have the same issues. But he's a guy who is going to go in this round 3-4 range, or even 5 maybe. So I have to mention him. The next one is a quarterback who has a ton of buzz heading into next week. And I think it's going to go much higher than many fans think. That's Will Howard out of Ohio State. Transferred from Kansas State to Ohio State, which is why Kyle McCord had to leave Ohio State and go to Syracuse. Won the national championship this past year for Ohio State. Hit a big clutch pass at the end of the game, if you remember, to win them that game. And is probably the most intriguing quarterback in this draft. He has all the physical tools. He just needs to be refined. Again, that's why you're taking a guy, though, round 3, 4 or so. They need to be refined. But he may have the highest upside of all the quarterbacks in this range. If the Miami Dolphins took him, would not be shocked in the least. I think there's something there. There's something with this kid, but this is why you pay a quarterback's coach in Darrell Bevel all this money, because whoever they take, if they take one of these guys in this group, or if they take someone else even later, you're going to have to do a big investment in time in any of them. So, but if you take someone like a McCord or a Howard or the next name I'm about to mention, you really think these guys might be a long-term number 2 quarterback, or if you hit the jackpot, maybe your future number 1. But Howard's a guy who has a ton of buzz heading into next week, who I think, obviously people love Ward. Sanders, it's mixed, but he's going to go in round 1, possibly the top half. Milroe, some teams love him, some teams hate him, but the teams who love him are going to make sure he's gone late round 1 or the first part of round 2. And then you got Jackson Dart, same thing. Some teams love him, some teams hate him. He's going to go round 1 or round 2. Those guys. When you get past that group, Kyle McCord is the girl with the curl, who I think a lot of casual fans are in love with because they saw him in those big games at the end of the year for Syracuse when they beat Miami that final weekend, which pretty much killed the Hurricane season. Then they saw him play in the Holiday Bowl. He threw for like 585 yards, and God knows, it was some crazy number. And he threw for like 6-7 touchdowns. And he actually played in the bowl game, which none of these quarterbacks do anymore. I'm opting out, but he actually played in the game and threw for like 580-something yards. So I think he's like he's a girl with a curl for the casual fans. Will Howard, I think for those who are more of like a diehard draft people who are following, is they see something in Howard, and that's where you're seeing him with a lot of buzz, not just amongst the draft people who cover this stuff, but just even NFL teams like, okay, this Will Howard's somebody to keep an eye on. So there's that, and the last name's Quinn Ewers. And here's the deal with Quinn Ewers. I know people are really down on Quinn Ewers. 2023, not 20, it sounds like Tweety Bird. 2023, Quinn Ewers was a surefire first round pick. 2024, not so much. He throws a very good deep ball, very accurate long ball thrower. On the short passes, he's inconsistent with his accuracy, and that's one of the problems. And it also came out just a week or two back that the Miami Dolphins front office took Quinn Ewers out to dinner when he flew into Miami for a meeting. So they did take him out to dinner and sort of talk him up, which not every player gets that. But Quinn Ewers got that. What does it mean? It might mean nothing. It might mean something. It could be the Dolphins like, we're really interested in Will Howard on record, so we're going to take out Quinn Ewers. So when that news leaks, we're going to throw people off our scent. Or they might just be like, you know what? We like him. We're not hiding it. And we're going to take him out to dinner, and we're going to talk to him for an evening to get to know this kid better. It could be, you can read into it either way. But those are the four names. If this report from Jonathan Jones that they are interested in a quarterback rounds 2, 3, or 4, where they have 4 picks, these are the names I'm thinking. Kyle McCord, Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, and outside chance of Tyler Shuck out of Louisville could be in the mix. If it were me, I'd go either Howard or McCord, or Shuck if he's there. But I think again for Shuck, it is going to have to be in round 2, and I don't know if Miami wants to do that. I think with those 2 picks in round 4, that's probably where they want to go, or even pick 98 because that's in the compensatory part of round 3. It's so late. It's so late. They could do it there if there's a run on quarterback. So those are the 3 reports from Jonathan Jones. Ramsey, they have no one who wants him, and that's gonna be a tougher trade. Hill, they can't move on from him even if they want to because no one wants him. He's toxic. And when it comes to quarterbacks, don't be shocked if the Dolphins take a quarterback rounds 2, 3, or 4 if one falls that they like. How the quarterbacks go, I mean, obviously Ward and Sanders, we kind of know round 1 at some point. After that, it's going to be fascinating. Our teams like the Browns and Giants looking to trade up to get Dart or Milrow, move into the back end of round 1. If they do, night 2, if those guys are gone and we have 4 quarterbacks in round 1 gone, where does the kid from Louisville go? Is he's probably the next one? Does he go in round 2 somewhere? And what happens to McCord, Gabriel, Howard, and Ewers? Are they round 3, 4 guys? How many are still there on Saturday when we start round 4? That's why this quarterback class, well, it's not the best class, and next year's is really, really good. This one's interesting because which teams are going to take a shot in those, early mid-ish rounds on one of these guys. Last thing I want to say, Matt Miller, ESPN. Once again, he covers the draft year-round. He'll be the guy who will take over for Mel Kiper whenever Mel hangs it up. Matt Miller is like the protege of Mel Kiper right now. And he put out a tweet on Sunday saying, talking to various teams, here's the positions that are going to go flying off the board Thursday, early part of Friday. And Matt would know. Again, he's well tied in. He covers this draft year round. He's Mel Kiper Jr. light. He's very well connected. Offensive tackles are going to go flying on Thursday because after the top 4 or 5, it falls off a cliff. So pretty much you got, Membo, Will Campbell, Banks, Simmons, the kid from Oregon. After those 4 or 5 guys, it kind of falls off a cliff. So if you're looking for an offensive tackle, true offensive tackle, you better get it on Thursday because come Friday, there's going to be guys. Got the kid from Minnesota and you got some other kids, but there is a gap significant after the top 4 or 5 offensive tackles. He goes tight ends, the 2 biggies that we know, Warren and Loveland. After that, the class is like, yeah, there's guys. You got Mason Taylor's good, but the top two guys are like sure things. You put them on the field, they're going to start. You have no issues. After that, it's kind of uneven. A lot of questions about the rest of the guys. Mason Taylor, Arroyo, Aronde Gatson the second. Like, there's a lot of question marks around those. So the top two tight ends are going to go flying. Defensive ends, which is also edge rushers. He says at least 6 are going to go in round 1. If you need an edge, you better get one of those 6 in round 1, because then, again, after that, there's a gap, and it's not the same. And then, this is the one who ties into Miami, cornerback. He thinks the back half of round 1, there's going to be a big run, and there's a big, his words, not mine, a big drop-off to the second-tier corners. Meaning, if you're Chris Greer, you lost Kendall Fuller. You lost Jalen Ramsey. Cam Smith, up until now, has been a bust. You need a corner. You got to get one of those first-tier corners. And, again, Will Johnson, should a Barron, I don't know how one of those two are not the pick in round 1. Either a 13, or if you trade down a few spots and hopefully one of them's still there, because he thinks at the end of round 1, there's going to be a big run, probably on Trey Amos, probably on Harrison from Kentucky, probably on the East Carolina kid, Chevelle. Like, I could see a bunch of those guys going to, like, the Washingtons, the Buffaloes, the Eagles of the world, the winning teams right now, the good teams, who late round 1, they all might be like, you know what, we got to scoop up our corner now, because when it gets back to us, it picked like 58, 60 and stuff. They're not going to be here. So I think if you're Miami, yes, there's a need at offensive line. We know there's a need up front on the defensive line. We know cornerback's a huge need right now. We know with Ramsey, one way or another, not being here next year, you better get one. And when you are first on the clock in round 1 at pick 13, because according to Matt Miller, and again, someone who's very trustworthy, that top tier cornerback class to the second, like at pick 48, you might be on tier 2 of corners. And if you're the Dolphins, you probably can't afford that. Like at pick 48, you can get an offensive lineman, like the kid from Arizona, like if Donovan Jackson maybe falls through the cracks, you can get him. Like, there's guys you can get to play guard at 48. If you want to go defensive tackle, you got the kid from Toledo, you got Alfred Collins. There are going to be guys at 48 there. At corner, it might be slim pickings by then. They like the first top tier guys, that first group of like 5 or 6 guys, they might all be gone. And then you're drafting project corners, which you don't need a project corner. You need someone who can come in and probably start week 1 for you. Yeah, there's going to be growing pains, but you can't afford to be in that second tier to be your first cornerback you take. So that's why this is going to be fascinating. That's Matt Miller. Like I said, I know it's line season this week where teams are throwing out stuff, smoke screens, but not everything is a lie. Okay, don't just think everything's a lie, because that's not true. And also listen to the reputable reporters, because they are smart enough to see through the lies and report accurate information. Because are they always right? No. But guess what? Like 9 times out of 10, they kind of are. And they kind of have their ear to the ground on what is really happening. And yeah, that's it. Again, this week, it's going to be wild. We have podcasts each and every day of the week. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're live on YouTube during the draft. Saturday, live interactive show. I'm putting out the link. Anyone can join me and I'll pop on and we'll talk Miami Dolphins through the draft. You might even be on with me when the Dolphins are on the clock. That'll be a lot of fun. And of course, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, myself and Tom Undersea will have recap podcasts after those nights to recap what Miami did. So check that out. So please make sure, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. So when we go live that minute, you are notified automatically that we're live and you can join us. Friday night 2, Dolph Freaky is going to be live from Green Bay, our correspondent. She will give us some flavor of what's happening on the scene, so you don't want to miss that. And we have some surprises on Thursday and Friday. Some special guests will be joining us. Wherever you're listening, like I said, subscribe. And DolphinsTalk.com, the website. Check that out, man. We got a ton of great writers putting out a ton of great content. You don't want to miss that. So go to the website, DolphinsTalk.com, and follow us on all our social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, at Dolphins Talk. Everyone have a great Sunday night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity. Hey guys, Mike here from DolphinsTalk.com. Just want to thank you for watching this video today. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this video. And also just thank you in general. I know you have a lot of other podcast options out there these days, whether it's with the Miami Dolphins or about the Miami Dolphins, and with non-Miami Dolphins podcast stuff like true crime, politics, NBA, Major League Baseball. We do appreciate the support you guys provide us, and we do thank you for watching our content. We appreciate it more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much. Just want to say thank you. And also, don't forget to sign up for our Patreon service. Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. And for just $3 a month, you will get more Miami Dolphins coverage and shows. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Thank you again, and everyone have a great day.